Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This show is brought to you by Oakley Trucking, headquartered in North Little Rock, Arkansas. The purpose of this podcast is to communicate with Oakley owner-operators and their families by giving them up-to-date information concerning Oakley Trucking and the trucking industry, from business advice to safety updates to success stories. Also to give an insight to outside truck drivers that might be interested in joining the Oakley family. Hey, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking. I'm your host for this podcast, the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This is episode 13. Last episode with Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco, we talked to them about the insight on dump dispatch, and that we cut in half so we could bring you the rest of it this week so you could get the details. They had such a good episode with those guys and giving us the lowdown and what a dump dispatcher thinks and what goes through his mind and his day-to-day activities. So appreciate you guys listening. Want to just get to the conclusion of this, and there's some really good information. Give us a call and let us know if you got any questions, suggestions on our podcast. I appreciate y'all listening. Share with everybody that you can, and thanks for listening. Let's continue on here. I got a couple other things I wanted to touch base on. Some more responsibilities for a dispatcher. I think sometimes the world of trucking, dispatcher has a bad reputation a lot of times, and it's just coming in. I just come in from 8 to 5, dispatch trucks. I don't care where you at 5, I'm out of here. That's not the case with our guys, you guys, our dispatch system. They're also responsible for making sure that we're billing the right customer, making sure that we're paying the right owner-operator, and that I don't think owner-operators realize that you guys look at their settlements every week. Now, what is the purpose of all that?
Well, it's important that stuff's right. It's important that we, part of customer service is billing and, billing stuff correctly and having all the documents in order. And the owner-operator plays a huge role in that. I mean, when a guy does a load, he scans in that paperwork, that's what we're sending to customers. And we get into it a lot with detention. That's a touchy subject with anybody, and it sure helps us when a guy turns in a detention sheet and it's filled out neatly and professional, and there's a signature or there's, good explanations on what's going on. Because a lot of times the person that's writing that check and paying that bill is nowhere near wherever you unloaded. They're in some office in some big tall.
Yeah, they don't know what's going on. They got to figure out what's happened. And
right.
The better explanation you got,
you bet,
the better off we are.
Yeah, the more documentation, the better. So, our owner-operators play a huge role in that.
How about looking at the settlements?
Yeah, the settlement, same deal. That's customer service to the owner-operator. We want that stuff to be right, and we're not, we're sure not perfect. And there's been times, where stuff goes out wrong, and we don't want that, and if that happens, we sure want to fix it, right then. So, we spend a lot of time, a certain amount of time every week, checking those things and making sure it's right.
So each dispatcher, he's got a set of owner-operators. He looks at their settlements once every week before he got to put his stamp on them.
Yeah. And whoever, the more than happy. I just can't tell you how happy I am to be a part of this company, because I think it's just whoever came up with it years and years ago, the genius setup of this whole deal is each dispatcher essentially, for lack of a better word, has his own little company. He has his own, 40 to 50 trucks. And so each transaction between him and that owner operator is personal. And I guarantee you most of these dispatchers can tell you what one of their drivers may have done 2 weeks ago, because they remember doing it. They remember dispatching him on it. They remember looking at the paperwork on it. And they remember looking and seeing it out in a settlement. So I think that, there's a real complementary relationship with the way our business is set up between the dispatcher and the driver. And, just like you said, you couldn't have said any better. This who you're talking to on the phone, Adam Page don't come in here and check in at 8:00 and go home at 5 and then forget about you until he punches his time card the next day. Each one of these guys has a vested interest in how you're doing and how the customer is being serviced. So, we ask a lot of our dispatchers, it's a lot on their plate, but it's just a special setup. So, I mean, maybe there's other companies that are set up the same way, but I haven't ever heard of any.
Well, and it seems to work because it gives responsibility and it gives long-term commitment from everybody to where we want to make the most money for Oakley the best we can. And so it falls back. Recruiting's got to hire the best owner operator that we can to help us take care of business and take care of customers for us. And then the dispatcher has to mesh with the driver and make sure they're on the same page and that we got the same goal in mind. And it can be a challenge. There's no doubt about it, but there's a lot of responsibility, that the dispatcher has. And I think a lot of people don't understand it sometimes, but it's the system that we built, like Scotty said, to where it's in their best interest to make as much money as possible for the company and the owner operator, because if they lose owner operators, they're losing out on money, on income, on taking care of the company. So it's their best interest to keep as many owner operators as they can. That's why I can remember years ago when I went down there to you guys and I said, look, we're going to have to get these guys home every weekend. Right? Yeah, that's kind of what I got from everybody. So I looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what? Man, that ain't going to happen, because from day one, we were always a company that you get home every other weekend. And I just got my butt chewed out. Don't hire anybody that can't be, stay out 2 weeks. I'm like, man, them days are over, fellas.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to have to get on the game. And I brag on y'all all the time. I know you never hear it, but I brag on you all the time because you did that. Y'all performed that years ago, and you committed to getting these guys home on the weekend. That took this company to the next level. When we as recruiters could start saying that we can get you home on the weekends, and y'all started making it happen, I mean, y'all basically told us you could do it, and we just told everybody that you could. And y'all make it happen, though. That is impressive. I know there's times, I know somebody's out there going, well, they didn't get me home, And we understand that. That's going to happen sometimes.
I'm glad this isn't a call-in show.
Yeah. 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 But it just, that took this company to the next level. And I think it created a lot of respect amongst the dispatcher and the owner operator that, man, this guy, he gets me home every weekend, and I don't even have to, he knows I want home every weekend now.
Yeah.
You got those guys. So that dispatcher driver relationship is very big. It's just, you can't say enough about communication between the two and the dispatcher and his responsibilities that go from coming in the morning to taking all those phone calls to figuring out where everybody's at and trying to plan, to look at all the loads he's got to cover, all the drivers he's got to get a load for that day. Hopefully he's planned ahead, to, looking at settlements, making sure they're correct, to looking at invoices that he's billing out to the customers, to looking at demurrage sheets, to making sure they're legit and correct. Do we want to send this to the customer? What else? He's really stretched thin, but I tell you, we've got some good ones down there that amaze me on what they do, and they are just troopers. They take care of the company. They take care of the owner operator, and I'm so proud of them. I really am. I kind of got off on
it's
off
good.
subject there, but I wanted to cover that with them and see what else we need to cover here a little bit. We've been going pretty good, but that's okay. I feel like it's good information, and I feel like our guys need to know some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we can cover a couple more. We're sitting here, if you hadn't been listening, we're sitting here with Jason Webb and Scotty Crisco in Dump Dispatch to give us a little detailed info, what's going on down in a dispatcher's mind.
Hey, one thing I'd like to touch on, Jeremy and Jason, especially right now, it's fertilizer season. It's decorative rock season. It's also coronavirus season. So we're all dealing with different obstacles every day with this. But as far, since we've been talking about planning for the truck and what it's like and getting inside the mind of a dispatcher, I do want to touch on something. A lot of times, Jason said earlier in our podcast that sometimes these loads come in on a big jet airplane out of nowhere. Well, a lot of times when that happens, a lot of those loads are, say, the same loads. Customers may be asking for 10 trucks tomorrow to load out of point A to point B. So I want the owner operators to know that once you get loaded out of point A and you get to point B, you've got to understand that it's you and 9 other owner operators there. So I think it's important for the owner operator to know kind of our rule of thumb in dispatch and situations like that is first in, first out. So trucks that get empty first get dispatched first. So, and I know it can be frustrating, and I know this happens because I've talked to owner operators on the phone. But if you are ever at an unloading point and you get empty and then another truck gets empty behind you and he gets a dispatch before you do, make sure to call your dispatcher, or make sure to call somebody in the load coordinator, or call somebody in this office, because, that's kind of always been, for years, that's been our rule. So, I mean, even though the dispatchers are planning for the trucks and whatnot, sometimes we need a little help from you guys too.
And they know who's in line. Now, here's what does not need to happen is I'm unloaded, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Yes. That's very true too.
Because we've discovered that happened before too. So that don't help the situation at all. But I understand what you're saying. They're in line to get unloaded. First in, first out. Hey, let's do the best we can, because we may not have, like you say, 9 loads right now.
Sure.
We got 5, and 4 of you are going to be sitting there till we figure out what we're going to do with that. Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes, sometimes those last 4 get the better loads.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
sometimes it happens. We don't know that, but it just sometimes that's what happens.
Well, and everybody's going to get a load. It's the thing. I mean, nobody's going to sit there till Monday.
Right.
We're going to figure something out.
Yep.
And we, it's, I was trying to think earlier, it helps. One thing that helps this whole deal go along is, and it's for any business, is when you got a good product to sell, and we got a good product to sell, real good. And that's the owner operator that makes that happen for us. And so, we're going to do whatever we can to keep that going.
What kind of feedback do you get from the customers about our owner operators?
Oh, it's across the board. You hear it, a lot of times you hear it when you go get in front of these people. You go out and see somebody and they tell you, you guys aren't always the cheapest, but, whenever we do 2 things, when we call Oakley, we know that what we need to happen is going to happen. And if something comes up where that's not going to happen, they're going to pick up the phone and call us. And that goes all back to the owner operator communicating with us, being our eyes and ears. And then the other thing you hear about is, man, when an Oakley guy shows up, you know it. There's, the guy's truck's clean, his trailer's clean. He's professional. He doesn't look like he just come out of a rock concert the night before. He's, got work clothes on and, clean shaven, good attitude. You can, and I've had people tell me this, I can look out in a crowd of drivers and pick out the Oakley guys for the most part, because they just stand out, and that's how part of how we've gotten where we are is guys doing that.
It sells.
You bet. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sells.
We are definitely, we all work in a bad news business. Generally, the only time you're going to get any news is, like Jason says, if it's bad. Nobody ever customers rarely call you up and say, "Hey, our load was delivered on time."
Yeah.
So, but like something stuck in my mind just a couple of months ago. We were doing some barge work over there out of Memphis, and this lady took the time to sit down and write a very extensive email. It was a 3-day job, and she said that she was sad it was over. She enjoyed talking to our owner operators every morning. And we probably as dispatch need to do a better job of conveying that to you guys. So,
Yeah.
But you do get bragged on.
Yeah, we do need to do better
You bet.
conveying that to them, because our owner operators have gotten us a lot of freight
Absolutely.
by the way they take care of themselves and do that customer service. Because most time we're booking freight over the phone. We don't have a regular guy that goes and, you guys are it. Y'all go see the customers once in a while, and we don't do that all the time. And we make that promise sitting in that chair in front of them. We make that promise based on our owner operator,
You bet.
and he delivers.
Yeah, I think that's important to say too. One thing I used to talk about when I first met my driver is we can sit in here and talk to the customers all day long, and we may sound good over the phone and make them laugh, but at the end of the day, you're Oakley Trucking, because you're who they see when you pull up. So you're who they're going to remember.
Hey, explain to me, and I know the answer, but explain to the owner operators how critical it is to haul the weight.
Well, it's how we make money. Probably 3/4 of our loads or better are by the ton. We give a rate, and probably more than 3/4, probably 90% are per ton, and a lot of, on the other end with the customer, they're figuring their costs and their raw material and their, hours, man hours and everything. It's a per ton number. So they're figuring the freight the same way. So it's important to the customer that if they order X amount of tonnage, that we haul it, what they want, or go beyond that. And then for us, it's pretty simple. We get paid by the ton. The driver, the owner operator, if he hauls a 500-mile load of rock, well, he's going to get paid X amount per mile. And how we make our money is that owner operator going in and loading as close to 80,000 pounds as you can. We've kind of gotten away from drilling that in with our dispatch every day, and we're trying to kind of steer the ship the other way. And it's hard at times to get back on track with that. But that stuff just, it comes back to the owner operator. And I know, you guys will hear that and say, yeah, whatever, you're just trying to make more money. But, and that's true. But, if you look, we haul 3,500 loads a week, roughly, as a company, and you just put add a quarter ton to that freight rate over the course of a year. Well, that's
millions of dollars.
That comes out to a lot of money.
Yeah.
And where does the owner operator see that? Well, it looks to me like they see that in a new wash bay lane, a new driver's lounge.
Yeah.
We're about to move into a nice new office.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes from, is guys doing their job, going in and asking for 80,000 pounds.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, too, that we also know that you guys fight that battle out there, too. Here's where the ball is in your court. We know that you guys go to shippers every day that are happy to stamp you out at 77.5 because you're off their books and out of their hair, and they can move on and go home. We need a phone call before you leave that facility. Just call your dispatcher. A lot of times we know who's actually writing the checks and calling the shots and get some more weight on your trailer. So, we know you guys are out there trying, but we need to make a phone call before we just leave somewhere with a low gross weight. And, Jason's right. We have let the ball slide on that for a little while. And that's our fault. I also think it's very important we start focusing on this now too, because we've got so many owner operators with really nice trucks. Really sharp, awesome trucks. But the fact of the matter is trucks are getting heavier and heavier. So the other, I think one other thing that we need to start mentioning is we need to maybe get back to the basics is, half a tank of fuel, we're not paying you guys to haul diesel. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but at the end of the day, that's the bottom line.
Well, when you figure that rate, you're punching in a number of weight that you think this guy's gonna get, on that load. So you want to, and I know you try to hit that average there because we got heavy trucks, we got light trucks, and yes, it's a challenge. We try to do our due diligence to make sure we don't hire too heavy trucks. We don't let them trade for heavy trucks because hauling the weight is a deal. I mean, it's just got to happen. You got to have good owner operators that understand that, respect that. They can't get upset about what another guy's truck weighs. You just worry about what your truck weighs and what you can get on there. And it is easy to get that 77, 78 and out the door. And those are the times when we're going to have to tell you to get back in line. That's going to take you another 2 hours to get another 1,500, 2,000 pounds, but it's going to have to happen. That's just the way this system is built to where hauling the weight is critical. And the other thing is the competition and what they're hauling. That's the biggest deal right there is the competition. You look at all our competitors and every one of them, I guarantee you, is going to be lighter than our guys. But we sacrifice some of that because we're going to look good. I mean, really, we're gonna sell it because we look good and they take care of their stuff, and we got the professionals. The other guys don't. So there's when you're bidding against the competition, you got to try. I just can't stress enough how hauling the weight and get as close to 80,000 as you can. Half a tank of fuel and getting up there and what is that stuff we haul? You got to get up there and stomp it down to get the weight on some of these feed products. Some of these feed products, you got to, out in the field when you're hauling some of them beans when it's time to do that. When you go over to Coke plant at ABC Coke and kicking that stuff around. I mean, I know that's extra work on the owner operator, but let me tell you, it pays you tenfold.
You bet.
And it does it. I used to give this example all the time, Scotty, when I was dispatching to get a guy to haul the weight is, look, I'm figuring the money every day. So when Friday rolls around and you've hauled 77,000 all week and I'm hunting a load for you, well, guess what? I can't deadhead you very far because I haven't made no money on you.
What I mean? That's a great way to look at it. I never really
I got a truck sitting right beside him that he's hauled 80,000 all week. Well, man, I've made some money on him. I can spend $500, $1,000 and deadhead him to the next load. And this other guy going to sit here because I just don't have I can't lose, I don't want to lose you hate to, but sometimes we do. So
and I've been looking at it. I'm telling you, there is nothing more that makes me proud too. When I look at an invoice and I see a gross weight of 79.9, it's almost like you feel like you stole something.
Okay. So that's a good point. So do you guys look at that?
Absolutely. Every invoice I look at, I check the scale ticket.
And our customers do too.
Absolutely.
There's been some times we get, messages from our customers, hey, you guys are charging us a minimum. Well, these guys, ain't none of them hit the minimum, and that doesn't happen very often, but it's something that a lot of people pay attention to.
Yeah. I think
everybody that's got any skin in the game is paying attention to the weight, and we're no different. It's just part of the business. So
yeah.
And we've got a lot of guys that you don't even have to mention it to them. They know I'm going to go in here and load it.
The majority of our owner operators do. The majority of those guys, they haul the weight.
Absolutely.
They understand the big picture. I feel like they do. We got guys that spec trucks out to be as light as possible to do the job. I mean, 90% of the guys, they know to get a lightweight truck, take care of it, haul the weight, do it for Oakley. They're a team player. You got a few guys out there that may not, but most of them do. I just know, I think I wanted to use this time here to finish up as explaining to the owner operator of hauling the weight, because sometimes it can be a little, I'm not getting back in that line again, for 500, 1,000 pounds. But, it does make a difference when you got a bunch of them that are having to do that. So we got to work, of course, with customers to make sure, they're loading. That's a whole nother episode, getting loaded. But man, all good stuff. We have been in here for a long time, guys. I tell you, I appreciate your input. Anything else y'all want to add real quick? Let's wrap this thing up. Are y'all good?
Well, just thank you, first of all. That it's we've got a lot of good guys, and that's what makes our job easier. It's like I said earlier, it's a lot easier when you got a good product to sell, and we've got the best product out there. I believe that wholeheartedly. So we appreciate you guys. If you've got any problems, any issues, need anything, I know it's been kind of rough here the last couple of months with all this coronavirus, and nobody's ready for that to be over with more than me, I assure you. But if there's something, on your mind, or you need help with something, man, give us a call. You should have phone numbers, for all of us, cell phones. Feel free to reach out. It's an open door policy here. It's been like that since the day I walked in. That's not going to change whether we, add, 800 trucks or 1,000 trucks or 2,000 trucks. That's important to us, and appreciate you guys listening. And thank you to all the families out there, wives out there listening. You're part of this deal too. So we sure appreciate you. And if you need anything, reach out.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jason says. I sure appreciate everything that the owner operator does for us. It's a pleasure trying to put food on your table, and I sure appreciate the food you put on our table too. So you guys take care, and thanks for listening.
No, say it right there. You guys did a great job. I appreciate y'all today. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate or review the show in the podcast platform of your choice and share it with a friend. We love hearing from our audience, so if you've got a question, comment, or just want to say hello, head over to our website, theoakleypodcast.com, and click the Leave a Comment button. We'll get you a response soon and may even share some of the best ones here on the show. We'll be back with a fresh episode very soon. Thanks for listening.